Hi, I'm Pat Dorsey, Director of Equity Research at Morningstar. As you know, we rate all the companies we cover at Morningstar with wide, narrow, or no economic moat. We've had Apple for a long time in the narrow moat bucket for a large number of reasons, but Associate Director for Technology, Tran, who covers Apple, recently kind of said, hey, maybe this is a wide moat business. So I thought we'd kind of open that up for discussion. So thanks for joining me, Toan.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
So people have asked me this for a long time, like as if it's sort of self-evident that, of course, Apple's wide moat. My goodness me. And for a long time, you've had some reservations about that, but there's sort of a catalyst recently that made you think, well, maybe it's time to upgrade it.
Yeah, there has been a catalyst, and that was the release of the iPad. Think about Apple as a wide moat. It's been, percolating in my mind for a while. We have Apple at a positive moat trend. What Apple is doing is that they are building a dominant mobile platform. Basically, they're recreating Windows in the mobile space with the iPhone. And what happens there is that as this installed base of iPhones and iPod touches and now the iPad grows, it becomes really attractive for developers to come and write programs for those devices because there's lots of users and most importantly, you can make money selling apps to these users.
It's a classic network effect.
Yes, absolutely. It's the classic network effect. So as more developers come to the ecosystem and write more apps, that attracts more users, which grows the installed base, thus attracting more developers, and you get that virtuous cycle going. And once it gets going, once it reaches a certain critical mass, it's pretty much unstoppable.
Well, arguably, the iPhone has been at critical mass for a while now, right? We could have made this argument a year ago, a year and a half ago. What was it about the recent launch of the iPad that kind of make you think, maybe things have actually kind of taken a step change to a new level?
The iPhone, of course, has done tremendously well. Steve Jobs disclosed yesterday they sold over 50 million units to date, and the iPod Touch, they've sold 35 million units. So 85 million units, that's a big market. I think the change with the iPad is that, this could really be a game changer in terms of changing the way people interact with computers. So, I can see, years down the road where the iPad is kind of the default way people do things with computers. And
whereas the iPod Touch and the iPhone are, because of their small form factor, necessarily going to be limited to certain uses.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, given the size of the screen, there's just some things you physically can't do. The iPad, though, with its much larger screen, kind of changes the equation. So I could see where this is kind of the primary computing device for a good portion of the consumer market. And Apple, I think, has pretty big ambitions. They think with the iPad, they can really start to take on and displace Windows in the consumer market.
And there's a couple of recent trends that are sort of helping that along, right? The advent of cloud computing, we've got more and more power, processor power and information being stored remotely, as opposed to having it needing to be on your physical device that you're holding in your hand, as well as the netbook trend. It seems like people might just buy an iPad instead of a netbook.
Yeah, absolutely. Both things help Apple out. Cloud computing, like you said, moves more computing power away from the user, so you don't really need a big, heavyweight device anymore. And I think the demand for netbooks that we've seen just illustrates. People want a simple device that they can use to do the things they want. Get on the internet, do email, chat, watch videos, listen to music. They really don't want a big, complicated, Windows PC where they have to worry about, what virus do I have this week?
Little dig right there. But of course, there is a fly in the ointment to the wide moat argument, and he happens to have a black turtleneck.
And Levi's jeans.
Yes.
I think the thing that's keeping us from going to wide moat with Apple at this point is that so much of Apple's value is tied up in Steve Jobs. The most important thing about Steve Jobs is the moral authority or the moral suasion he holds within Apple. Steve Jobs is a legend in Silicon Valley for what he's accomplished, and rightly so, I think. And he's the co-founder of Apple. There's really no one else in the company that can get everyone on the bus moving in the same direction. So, I think that's a really important point. And, without Steve Jobs, Apple probably loses some of its edge.
And you've drawn an interesting analogy with, Apple's most hated foe, Microsoft, and when Gates left in the mid-90s.
Yeah, I think Microsoft, probably a combination of certain things with the antitrust ruling. Bill Gates, started disengaging from Microsoft in the late '90s, and Microsoft still has a great business in Windows, but they really lost their edge. They lost their killer instinct in terms of a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, and really being able to move the company into new directions.
Yeah, not having the founder there to really basically get everyone on the bus, no matter what color the bus is, no matter what direction it's going on, seems to matter a lot for tech companies, especially when they're so tied to a key visionary like either Gates or Jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so at this point, basically, it's I think the way you put it was, if Jobs were to kick the bus tomorrow, I wouldn't be making this argument.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I would say, though, Apple is probably the widest of narrow moats. They are at the cusps, I think.
All right. Thanks very much, Toan.
Thank you, Pat.
I'm Pat Dorsey, and thanks for watching.
At Morningstar, we feel it is important to schedule regular checkups of your investments. This is the reason we're pleased to announce Portfolio Monitor, a new and easier way to keep track of your investments. With a few clicks of the mouse, receive a monthly report that provides a comprehensive and customized summary of your portfolio, sent automatically to your inbox. Portfolio Monitor provides a concise digest of all the best features of premium membership. Become a premium member with our 14-day free trial to start receiving Portfolio Monitor today.